Hey guys, Kajiki here with another review. This time I'll be reviewing the DX Kyutama Cockpit Set 01 from Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. This is the first set of Kyutama that let you replicate the cockpits of the Voyagers and Kyurenoh. This set includes 5 Kyutama cockpits and 5 mini Kyuranger figures. So, let's get started. To start, we'll look at the Kyutama cockpits on their own. So, these are specially designed Kyutama with no numbers, that instead of having the Mao slide gimmick, instead have a cockpit inside of them. You see, it uses the same kind of metallic gray plastic as the normal deluxe Kyutama, but if you come around to the back, you can see this little hinge and a clasp to open and close the cockpits themselves. If we open one up, you see the fully detailed cockpit inside, and for each one, it has that Kyuranger symbol above them, which is accurate to the show. And for the cockpit itself, you can also take it and rotate it around, which will come into play for a couple of them. For the most part, these are each the same, with the exception of the printed design, as they also have the same pin combination. So here's one for black, green, and yellow. Next we have the 5 mini Kyurangers. I'll start off by saying that these are definitely the smallest figures I have ever looked at, and I have to zoom in my camera really far to even get them to even be this clear in the frame. For size comparison, zooming out a little bit, here's them with one of the small Voyager figures that came with various toys in the Voyager line. As you can see, they only come up to about the waist. And this is about the size of half of my fingers, so you can imagine how small these are. But despite their size, they are surprisingly detailed. First we have Shishi Red. If we take a close look, you can see that they did mold in a lot of the suit details, including the details on his helmet. Even molded on tiny Saiko Blasters. As far as the articulation for them goes, the only joint they have is this one at the waist, which is what connects the torso to their legs. And these are also a little bit tough to stand, so I'll just be setting them on the backs when I'm done looking at them. Next is Ookami Blue. You can see has a little bit of a fur-like texture to him, which is impressive for something this size. You also see some very tiny details, especially along the head. As we have Oushi Black. And this guy was definitely molded a little bit more bulky than the others, as you can see. And he got his helmet design down very well. Although it looks like they just used the same leg piece for him as all the rest, so he's not entirely accurate since his legs are also a lot more bulky than the other Kyurangers. Next is Chameleon Green. You can see they did manage to get down the details of her helmet as well. And finally we have Kajiki Yellow, once again has the same basic details and does have a slightly protruding visor. Next, we can use the Kyutama cockpits with the 5 Voyagers that form Kyurenoh. So, starting off with Shishi Voyager, you'll want to take the cockpit and open it up, and have it facing upwards like this. And take Shishi Red, and slide him into here, so that his back is up against here, and his legs are wedged in there like that. You just want to straighten them out. Then close up the cockpit and set on. Here is a little close-up look. Next, Ookami Blue. Go on, put him in a similar manner, but with his legs facing towards the bottom of the Kyutama. Just like that. And set him on the back of Ookami Voyager, like so. Then for Oushi Black, you're going to do the same thing. And set him on the back of Oushi Voyager. Next we have Chameleon Green. So for her, you're going to start off by setting her in the same way as the previous two. Then for her, you're going to want to take the cockpit and then rotate it 90 degrees, so that she's facing upwards while the ring is on the bottom. And close her up. And set her on the back of Chameleon Voyager. Like that. And lastly, for Kajiki Yellow, we'll do the same. Just like that. Then to prepare them for turning them or being used with Kyurenoh, I want to then take them and flip them so that they are facing this way, and close the cockpit down on them. Though you want to try to get them wedged in places. Typically, a lot of times I find that if they're not in there securely enough, they'll kind of jump around when you click back down the cover of the cockpit. And then we'll set it into place like that. So I'm going to next cut back to you guys, or cut and then get back to you guys when I have the fully formed Kyurenoh with them all set in place. And here we have Kyurenoh with the Kyutama Cockpit set in place. Now what I will say is probably the most annoying thing about this set for me is getting this set up. Not exactly putting the Kyutama in place, that's as easy as doing the same thing with the normal Kyutama, but rather getting the figures in there, because the basic thing that happens, as I described earlier, is that if you don't get them in just right, when you close the cockpit doors, the force will actually cause them to pop out of their seats and then get into some awkward position that is not them seated in their seats. And that is, I think, a really annoying flaw. But, if you take a closer look, you can see them in the seats. Though they do look a little bit awkward since they just have their legs bent, rather than having both their legs and knees bent like in the show. but they are indeed in there. And you can also use the light and sound gimmicks, though the lights will be obstructed. As you can see, it's very hard to actually see the lights because the only part that gets lit up are the outer rings. Finally, the Kyutama cockpits can also be used with the Saiko Blaster, but since they all have the same combination of pins, I'll just be using one of them. So as you can see, it recognizes it as just a generic Kyutama and uses a plain white light. You also get this generic sound for both the Seiza Go and Seiza Attack sounds. Along with the generic Seiza Control sound. And as always, with a Kyutama, the sound made is the same. And there we go. Overall, this has a bit of hit or miss for me. Personally, I do quite like how the Kyutama cockpits work with the individual Voyagers, since you have them set in them there with the legs set along the length of the cockpits, and they are wedged in very securely, so you don't really have to worry about them wiggling around to them too much, and they generally are seen more in Kyutama cockpits when they're in the individual Voyagers rather than as Kyurenoh, and likewise, I don't think using them with Kyurenoh works quite as well, because for the student of the show, it has the actual cockpits kind of fogged up, so all that you see are the colors, which makes the original Kyutama that it came with a little bit more accurate, and basically you only really see the cockpits when it's using the special attacks or when it's forming. So that also, kind of goes with the light gimmick. And additionally, like I said, it is tricky getting them, see it in there for use with Kyurenoh, since it's really easy to have them just kind of pop around, and you really have to get them in just the right position for them to be able to sit securely upright like that. And overall, it just doesn't look quite as well, or doesn't look quite as good because they just have that one joint at the waist, instead of having that and a second joint at the knees, which would have made them look better in that mode. So, with that in mind, these are not necessary for any kind of Kyutama collection, since they just make a generic sound with the Saiko Blaster. But if this concept and this idea appeals to you, and you do want to add a little bit of extra playability to your Kyurenoh, then I can recommend picking these up. But if not, and if you're just kind of on the fence, or you don't really think you'd like this, then it's an easy pass. Next time, I'll be reviewing the Deluxe Detective Double Gashot. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and or comment, and subscribe to keep up with my latest videos. And for now, this is KRX50, writing off.